Hey everybody, this is the Stuff I Heard podcast, and I'm your host Josh Peak, and here we go. Hey, hello everybody. Today happens to be Wednesday, the 11th of December 2019, and I am your host Josh Peak. This is the Stuff I Heard podcast. I am here, home, and it's getting late. It's been a busy day. I was planning on getting up super early this morning and recording this podcast before the numerous things I had to do today, but I just run out of time. It didn't quite work out that way. I was feeling a little under the weather yesterday. I know the changing of the season here. We're in December in South Carolina, which means yesterday the high was in the 70s, and today the high was in the 40s. Really weird, huh? So, I don't know. There was a change in the atmosphere. I felt under the weather. I took some NyQuil before I went to bed, and I had the day off today, so I slept in. Well, I say slept in. My wife's alarm went off just before 8 o'clock. Now, you may ask yourself, well, Josh, why did your wife's alarm go off? Good question, and I'll tell you about this. She had a medical thing that had to be done today. We had to go to the hospital, and we spent all day there. We didn't get home until after 4 o'clock. So, it just turns out where that's what happened. So, I got home, got her situated, and I still needed to run outside and get some errands done. So she was able to lay down and take a nap, and I was able to go and take care of some errands. Now it's time to record a podcast. Okay, I have had a whirlwind of things to listen to because I went to go see my buddy Greg. Now, if you guys caught the last episode 167, you'll hear Greg Steele and I talk on his couch about many various things, grilling and Mandalorian and Tesla trucks and all kinds of stuff like that. Now, what I didn't talk about was stuff that I listened to. And here's the thing. He lives about a 6-hour drive down to Albany, Georgia from where I live. So I had some podcasts to listen to all the way down there. On the way back, I kind of listened to everything I wanted to, and I just got into a groove of listening to music, and I listened to music the entire way back, which is really uncommon for me. Here lately, all I do is listen to podcasts. But anyway, I did listen to quite a bit, and I'll just talk about that stuff now, because this is Stuff I Heard podcast. Okay, so Bert Kreischer has a podcast, The Bertcast, episode 357 with Tom Rhodes. Tom Rhodes is a hilarious comedian. He has a new album out called Around the World, and he has a podcast called the Tom Rhodes Radio. Tom is well-traveled. He's gone all around the world. He talks about how he went on an extensive trip overseas doing comedy, and during that time, him and his wife grew apart, and now he's single, and as an older man, he's found some comedy in it, and that's sort of what this next comedy special is about, or this new comedy album is about. He's selling the comedy album for like $15, but it's like a 3-hour comedy album. Listen, it's a fun podcast to listen to. He's been on the podcast before. He's pretty cool to listen to. Very cool. Check him out. I think you'll enjoy it. Then I switched over to listen to Whitney Cummings' podcast, Good For You. And there was a few that I listened to. Okay, so the first one that I listened to was with Jim Jeffries, because right away I recognized the name. I've heard him before. I know he's an Australian comic, and they get along great. They banter back and forth. They have a lot of humor, and it's very fun to listen to. It's a fun hang. I sort of criticized her in the beginning of the way she was interviewing was very Valley Girlish, the way she talked. But again, I think you mimic the people that you're around, and she was interviewing people that she was comfortable with that also talked with that weird Valley Girl speak, where like everything they say is like a question at the end. You know what I mean? Like that. It gets annoying after a while. She doesn't do that with Jim Jeffries. But anyway, that was a fun hang, about a 2-hour podcast. She seems to be averaging about 2 hours on her podcast. And then she did one with Nicole Byer. Nicole Byer is an actor, comedian, actress, all the fun stuff. She just wrote a book called Very Fat. What is this? Hashtag Very Fat, hashtag Very Brave. The Fat Girl's Guide to Being a Brave and Not Dejected, Melancholy, Down in the Dumps, Weepy Fat Girl in a Bikini. It's a very long, lengthy title there. But it's funny to listen to her. She talks about the fact that, growing up as a larger black woman, that she's had a lot of problems, with people telling her, oh, don't, you lose weight, oh, you should do this, you should do that. And she's like, listen, this is just me. I'll get over it. And listen, I like the fact that she embraces the fact of who she is, and she tells people to get over it. So anyway, it's a fun listen to as well. Again, this is more of, girl on girl talk, and it gets a little, hug it out, emotional kind of towards the end. And I don't know. Yeah, I'm glad it was at the last part of my trip, and the finish line was near, because that's when I was just getting to Greg's. Then listen to Dr. Drew's podcast, Dr. Drew After Dark, episode 42 with Christina Pazynski. Very good. And I forgot to write this one down. Dadgummit. The very next one, episode 43 it would be. Yeah, it's on here. Oh, geez, I just see another one I want to listen to. Where is it? Previous played. I don't know how to pronounce her name. This is Bobby Lee's wife. They do a Tiger Belly podcast together. Kailela Kuhn. KHALYLAKUHN. I know I didn't pronounce that right at all. She was very fascinating. She talks a lot about growing up in the Philippines and then moving to the States and what it was like growing up in kind of a rough area of Los Angeles. Her father was very old. Apparently he may have been in the CIA, and her mother was very young. Her mother was abusive. Her father was dying during this time, and her sister was older, but her sister was very tall, and so her mom took her abuse out on her a lot. And then she, got very emo and got into cutting and that kind of thing, and then eventually just got out of there. And anyway, she's very interesting to listen to. She loves Bobby Lee. Obviously, they're married, and she talks about his addictions and how she's trying to help him get over them. But it's just, she kind of feels like it's coming to a head, that it's either gonna fix itself or she's gonna have to move on. She says that in not so many words. But very interesting podcast. Anyway, let's talk about Joe Rogan, episode 1392. I listened to that yesterday with Zach Bitter. He is a two-time world record holder. Is that how you say it? He holds 2 world records for running. Okay, he ran 100 miles in 11 hours and 19 minutes. 19.18 seconds, or 19 minutes and 18 seconds. Yeah. It whatever it is, it averages out to less than 7 minutes a mile for 100 miles. Holy crap. And he also holds the world record for 12 hours. He ran 104.88 miles in 12 hours. That's crazy. And Joe asked him about it. He's like, why? What made you want to do that one? He's like, well, I was already running, and I just lost track of time, and before I knew it, I'd already done that one, and so I ended up getting 2 world records. I don't know if he actually planned on it. It's just that's how it happened. So, anyway, that was a fun episode to listen to. Those guys Zach's been on there before. He's very motivational. He talks a lot about diet and nutrition and things that he changes in his diet in order to cater to the needs of his running, and it's just a fun hang. And then Joe did one, episode 1396. I skipped some of those MMA ones. Episode 1396 was Michelle Wolf. I've seen Michelle Wolf on Bert's podcast before, and also on Bert's cooking show, Something's Burning, on YouTube. And her voice, the one she did with Joe, I'm listening to her voice, and the whole time she's talking, I keep thinking, God, you sound like somebody. You sound like a cartoon character that I've seen on something before, and I just can't picture it. But she just kept sounding like a character, and I was like, what character is it? And so when I came home, I Googled different cartoons that I'd watched over the last year, and I'm like, is this it? No, she's not it. And I Googled her name to see if she'd done a cartoon voice, and nothing came up, and I was like, okay, what voice is it? And then it dawned on me. She sounds like, if you ever watched the movie The Incredibles, she sounds like the babysitter, Kari. Now, I Googled who plays Kari, and it's not her, but sounds just like her. Golly, it's uncanny. She was on Joe's podcast because she has a Netflix special, and it just came out. It's called Joke Show, and at the very end, she's got the Marilyn Manson, "We're all stars now in the Dope Show," but it's the Joke Show is the name of her thing, and so I guess that's where she got the title. She just changed the letter. Anyway, she, I guess, got a lot of popularity because she was invited to do the White House dinner for Barack Obama, for the inauguration dinner. I think that maybe his wife and him both are fans of Michelle Wolf, and she went and did the inauguration dinner, and she apparently had said some things that they didn't quite like because she's a little crass, a lot crass, whatever. But whatever, it is what it is. Okay, you hired a comedian, she did her job, she did what she thinks is funny, and either you get along with it or you don't. Well, somewhere along the way, Donald Trump decided to troll her and just start writing some stuff, and she started writing back. And listen, you don't want to trade punches with somebody whose job it is to roast people, and so she definitely came out on top of that one. But Joe had her on. He's friends. They're friendly. This is again a fun hang to listen to. Really enjoyed it. Okay, let's talk about some shows that I've watched, because I've also got to watch some stuff with my extended time off. Let's start with Amazon Prime. I watched Modern Love. Okay, there is a lot of actors in this that you're going to see on the screen and immediately go, "Holy crap! I can't believe they got this person." Right off the way, as soon as the preview was showing, I noticed Tina Fey, Anne Hathaway, and Andrew Scott. Okay, everybody knows who Tina Fey is. Everybody knows who Anne Hathaway is. Andrew Scott, you should know who Andrew Scott is by now. Okay, he was in an episode of the recent Black Mirror as it came out. He was also in Fleabag on Amazon Prime, and he was the Catholic priest that she had the love interest where she liked him and he was trying to stay celibate. Anyway, and then Sherlock Holmes, he played Moriarty in the Sherlock Holmes series that was originally on BBC that they now have on Netflix. Andrew Scott is an incredible actor, and listen, each one of these episodes is great, and it goes with the title, Modern Love. So each episode is basically a version of love in now, in the 2000s, in the 2000 pluses, okay? The first episode is called Doorman, okay? And in Doorman, like, there's a guy who's a doorman, and you see a love between him and someone who stays at the hotel, and it's not what you think, okay? Episode 2 is about a journalist. Episode 3 is about a lady with bipolar situation. That's Anne Hathaway. And they do an incredible job of showing her moods. When she's on top, everything is happening. It's like magic. It is awesome. There's extra lights and sounds and music playing. And then when she's down, the skies are gray, there is no sunshine, and she just wants to curl up in her bed and stay there. And this episode is weird to watch, but it also kind of shows you, the viewer, what it's like to be that person. And it's interesting. Tina Fey is in episode 4. It's just basically about, I boiled it down to the word tennis. Okay, trust me, you're going to have to watch it. Episode 5 is a blind date. That is very cool. I actually really enjoyed that episode. This couple's on a blind date, and a lot of things go wrong, and they find themselves doing things that they don't normally do on a first date, and it's heartwarming. That's all I'm going to say. You got to watch it. Episode 6 is about a dad relationship. This girl looks at an older man that she works for at a business, and she's infatuated with him because she didn't have a dad growing up, and he thinks it's a romantic thing, and she does it, and it gets weird. It gets weird. It's a weird episode. The girl playing in it, I don't know her name, but she's in the Ozarks. She's the blonde, curly-headed girl. She's a really good actress. I keep seeing her pop up and stuff, and I'm going to have to learn what her name is at some point, because she keeps popping up in things. Episode 7 is the one with Andrew Scott, where he's in a gay relationship with another man, and they want to adopt a baby, but have trouble, and eventually find a woman who is homeless who wants to give her child up for adoption because she likes living a homeless lifestyle and doesn't want to give it up and just thinks a baby would be better off with a family that will stay together. Interesting episode, really good. And then the last episode is, I just wrote down 70s love, runners/finish line. Okay, this woman who's in her 70s falls in love with a guy who's also in his 70s, and they get married, and this shows their life together, and it shows what it means to be in a relationship at that stage of your life. It's very honest, and it's very touching, and it's very tender, and it wraps all the other stories up together so that you see there's a tie-in with the last episode with all the others. It's very good. It's a very good it's a very good series. Again, Modern Love. Check it out. Staying on Amazon Prime, let's talk about The Marvelous Miss Maisel. If you haven't watched The Marvelous Miss Maisel, do yourself a favor, start at episode 1 and watch it. Don't be surprised when she exposes herself on stage with the first episode. It's the only time you ever see any nudity in it, and it was supposed to prove a point, but it is about stand-up comedy in the 50s, early to late 50s. She's in New York. She's a Jewish lady. She's married. Her husband cheats on her. She goes to he wanted to be a stand-up comedian, but she found out that he was stealing Bob Hope's words. He'd watch Bob Hope on TV and then go down and tell it as his jokes, and it pissed her off more than anything because he wasn't genuine, and she enjoyed the craft of comedy. And she got really mad about it, and then it comes out that he'd been cheating on her all along, and so she left him in the heat of passion or whatever. She got extremely drunk, went on stage, started telling jokes, was a hit, and then at some point exposed herself. Got put in prison next to Lenny Bruce. Lenny Bruce is famous for being arrested multiple times for telling dirty jokes in New York. Now, if you go back and look and actually watch and listen to the things that Lenny Bruce got arrested for, it wasn't for anything that isn't happening on stage now. It wasn't anything out of the way crazy. He just happened to say some things that people didn't think were decent. And during that time, you could get arrested for saying things on stage that people didn't think were decent. So, he was really an out-of-the-box thinker. He wanted to challenge free thinking and free speech and get people to step outside of their comfort zone and find the humor in situations. And a lot of people consider Lenny Bruce the godfather of what stand-up comedy is today. Now, I'm on the third season. The third season, final episode, they pay homage to Moms Mabley. It's not easy to say when you have cotton mouth. Got a white mouth here. There is a scene where they're at the Apollo, and Moms Mabley is on stage, and it's awesome. It's a good scene. It's really good. There is a character that surrounds this season, a guy named Shai Baldwin, who's fictional. He's not real, but he's sort of based on Harry Belafonte. Listen, this is one of the best shows that I've seen. This is one of the best shows I've seen. That's it. That's all I got to say about it. There's a lot of quick comedy in it. You're going to miss a lot of the jokes. The first couple of minutes of this third season, she goes to a military base, and there is so many quick one-liners. You're going to miss most of them. I had to watch it second time, and I caught other jokes that I'd missed the first time. She goes on a rampage there for a little while, and she tells what she calls big dick jokes. Because they tell her, you can't talk about this stuff on stage. No dick jokes. No dick jokes? What about big dick jokes? What's a big dick joke? And she just rattles off like a rapid fire amount of big dick jokes. It's hilarious. Anyway, it's funny. Okay, what else? Disney Plus. Disney Plus has got The Imagineering Story. Episode 5 came out, and every Friday that comes out along with The Mandalorian. Well, I watch The Mandalorian because I'm big into Boba Fett and Mandalorian and all that kind of crap. I'm the Star Wars dork. And my wife is a big Disney dork, so she likes to watch The Imagineering Story. And she always watches it first and tells me, "Oh, yeah, you watch it. I'll watch it again with you." And I'm like, "Okay." So we watched it again last night, or I watched it for the first time. A lot of it is about Bob Iger and his role with Disney, with revitalizing Disney, and making some choices to acquire some things or make some changes within the company. Part of that is redoing California Adventure in near Disneyland to reflect more of what the company stands for. So they spent a lot of money, and they basically made, Cars Land out of part of their park. Now, Dolores and I went there, I think it was about 3 years ago, and we were blown away. I mean, if you haven't been to California Adventure, it is really cool. There is a Radiator Springs type town. There is this neat looking, like Grand Canyon looking thing with these Cadillac fins up in the air for Cadillac Canyon. There is a neat Cars ride that's really interactive and fun. There's all kinds of cool rides over there, but more than anything, just the atmosphere alone is really cool because you're basically in that town of Radiator Springs. It's really cool. He also spent money on, purchasing Marvel and the Marvel franchise, and also on Star Wars. And they talk about that stuff a good bit. I think they're going to go more into it as the series goes. They did talk a little bit about Hong Kong getting a new exhibit. I can't remember what it was right now. Oh yeah, they did a haunted house, but a different kind of haunted house, and they show like how they do some of the special effects of it. And then they also show Disney Paris or Euro Disney or whatever it's called, where they did a Ratatouille exhibit or Ratatouille Land, and they have a Ratatouille ride that they're doing a copy of right now in Epcot in France. It's a big ride. Basically, you're in the movie, you are with Remy, you're underneath the stuff in the kitchen and scurrying about, and it's really neat looking. They sort of hinted at China doing a deal with Disney for Shanghai, and they didn't really show you anything, but they talk about it in this episode, and my wife goes, "I bet you the next episode is going to be all about Shanghai." And I was like, "Yeah, you're probably right." But yeah, so cool stuff, really cool. What else? Oh, Netflix. I watched the Movies That Made Us with Greg, and we started off just looking at the list, and the first one we saw that we wanted to watch was Ghostbusters, so we clicked on it, and it was amazing. Like, it's all the behind-the-scenes stuff that you don't know about who owns the rights to what the words were. Was it going to be Ghostbusters or Ghostbreakers? There was a thing about trying to get Bill Murray to play the part. Nobody was really sure if Bill was going to show up, and there was a lot of craziness that went on. At one point, they had to come up with animation, and there was a deadline date, and if they didn't hit this deadline date, they weren't going to be able to do it. And Industrial Light and Sound had to split off, and a new company emerged from it, and then these guys had to come up with special effects that were just crazy. And a lot of the stuff that they have in the movie is a one take. They just shot it one time, and they're like, "We don't have time, let's just go," And they just really rushed this movie to get it done. But listen, I'm sure a lot of you have seen Ghostbusters. It turned out really fantastic. The cool thing is that now there's a trailer for a new Ghostbusters movie, and it looks awesome. It really looks awesome. But okay, so we watched that, and we were like, "Oh, hey, that was cool." So the next one that came up was Die Hard, and we were like, let's watch Die Hard. Why not? It's Christmas time. So the Die Hard behind the scenes was really incredible because there were a lot of things that we didn't know about it, like bringing Bruce Willis in as a lead action hero guy. Back then, he was just the guy from Moonlighting, and they didn't know that he could be the guy to draw in an audience or to be believable to be this guy. And so it's a very cool behind the scenes thing. They actually show a trick that they did with Hans Gruber. Listen, if you like watching Die Hard, you're gonna really like this. So once we'd seen those two, we were like, well, what else is on here? Oh look, there's one about Dirty Dancing. Why not? There's only 4 episodes in this thing, and the first 2 were great. So we watched the thing on Dirty Dancing, and we found out how incredibly hard it was for them to do what they did. that Patrick Swayze, had this incredible knee injury the entire time they were shooting. They had all sorts of problems with music and all sorts of problems with people saying that it was terrible and it wasn't going to work, and nobody wanted to buy it. Nobody wanted to be involved. It finally got made, and it made a crap ton of money. Basically, is what the end of it was. And if you like Dirty Dancing, again, any of these movies, if you like these movies, watch this movies that made a series, because you're going to be amazed at how they actually were able to pull it off. And of course, in the last one we watched, which we didn't plan on it that way, was Home Alone. And you get to see a lot of the behind the scenes there too, and a lot of things that are really amazing of how they actually pulled it off. At one time, there was an argument about what it was going to cost, and they actually decided to scrap the whole movie at one point because they're like, nah, this is too much money, we're not going to do it. And they literally let the movie go to another studio, and the other studio went, we'll pay that money. And they ponied up the money and boom, got it done, and made a crap ton of money in the process because it was a huge hit. Anyway, go check out the Movies That Made Us on Netflix. You'll dig it. Alright, is there anything I missed? I'm looking down my list here to make sure. I took notes. Oh. I do want to talk about something that's not even on my list. So, you guys have met Danny before. I've had Danny Bride on my podcast. We've talked about his Instagram and his YouTube, stuff I kind of care about. Well, now Mr. Danny's gone and done it. He has gone and started his own podcast. Now, it's on Anchor, so if you don't have Anchor, you got to look it up online, anchor.fm, and then look up under the search, Stuff I Kind of Care About. He's got his first episode up. He did an hour with a local guy. I've talked about him on here. Guy's name is No Cash. Talks about being homeless. Talks about his struggles. He's going to be on my podcast at some point. I'm going to do their podcast at some point. We're going to try and get No Cash started with a podcast. We're going to do this, okay? And this is what I've talked about since the beginning. It's all about community. It's all about everybody helping each other out. People who want to go after it, help other people go after it, okay? Anybody who's successful in life wants to help other people succeed. That's just how it is. If you don't like the way your life is going, surround yourself with better friends. That's all it is to it. Yeah. That's all I got to say about that. I heard that from, who did I hear that from? Adam Carolla. Adam Carolla talked about how he grew up with a bunch of burner friends that all they wanted to do was get high and party. And he was like, listen, I wanted more out of life. And at some point, I became friends with, Jimmy Kimmel. And Jimmy was going to be a successful guy. I knew it. And then as things got moving, I started being friends with Dr. Phil and friends with, Mark Cuban and friends with people who were successful. And I started not hanging out with my burner friends anymore, but hanging out with people who were successful. He said, and I realized along the way that the one thing they love to do the most is talk about how you could be successful. Why not? Snoop Dogg once said, if you can't have some, what is it? Ain't no fun unless your friends have some. Now, he was talking about something completely different, but the concept is still the same. You want to help people around you succeed. We all do, right? With that being said, I'm going to wrap this up. I've done about 30 minutes. And I'll be honest, I'm tired. It's been a long day of sitting in the hospital. So, the wife is okay if anybody's concerned. She's fine. She just had a scope done to, make sure she's all good. And she is. And, yay. So, thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. I'll be on here Saturday, and we'll talk about more of stuff I heard. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. Share with your friends. And if you want to be part of the podcast, let me know. And you never know when I might be showing up at your place or whatever. Something like that. Anywho, y'all take care now. Cue the cow.